All right, Pickle, let's get into the final three college football postmortems as we take a look at the 12 FBS teams in the state of Texas and what they did in the 2020 college football season. We'll start out in the LBK, and we'll start with the Texas Tech Red Raiders, who rack up a 4-6 record in Coach Matt Wells's second year there with Tech. And look, a 4-6, I think, is obviously disappointing. I think they strike me as a team that got a little bit. Well, part of it is that I think they got a little bit unlucky. I think you make your own luck. But I think part of it is that there's two teams here that I think that we're going to talk about, but they did not win on the margins. And they did not, for example, they were like really bad in special teams and stuff like that. And that cost them a few games. They did not have a knack for coming up with a big play at the key moment. They were really bad in turnover margin. Those little things kind of, I think, mar what was otherwise like a decent team. I think Tech fans are probably mad because the record stinks. The record's 4-6. They were a team that if a couple of plays go a different way, and I know you got to make your own breaks, but if a couple of plays go a different way, they could be 6-4, and I think things feel a lot different. Mm-hmm. So let's start with the offensive grade. The offensive grade, I'm going to give them – go ahead.
I was going to say the other thing, and it's what we talk about every single year with Tech, and I hate to bring it up, but injuries. They cannot keep a healthy quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
And honestly, like, excuses, but that plays a factor at some point.
Yeah. No, it does. It does. And they have not been able to stay healthy. But, this is a team that, you do make your own breaks. And in the end, they did not make the plays with the players that they had. And so on the offensive side, I give them a C+. I give them a C+. They kind of had a bit of a revolving door. I think I knocked my camera. They did have a bit of a revolving door at quarterback with Alan Bowman and Henry Colombi, both of whom I thought played okay in their time. But obviously inconsistency at the quarterback spot is going to hurt, especially when you're talking about a team that I do think had a really nice, core of receivers. Eric Nzukanma, I think, obviously I don't think he needs any, introduction at this point. I thought Sean Carter in his limited time was really effective. I thought Miles Price, the freshman, stepped up in a big way. I thought Jalen Polk, now he's transferring as well, but he, I thought, stepped up in a big way. They had a group of receivers that I thought were pretty good. I thought the offensive line was actually quite good. Mm-hmm. And, led by Jack Anderson. I thought that the offensive line was quite good, and I thought that they were able to run the ball pretty effectively with Sir Roderick Thompson. What ended up costing them was just inconsistency at the quarterback spot, both as far as play and as far as who it was, right? Mm-hmm. Whether you're talking about injuries, whether you're talking about ineffectiveness, like they were a bit of a revolving door at the quarterback spot. And I feel like if they had just found that guy, they would have been even better than they were. They were a decent offense. Like, they were a pretty good offense. I mean, this is, it's probably not pretty good by Tech standards, but I thought that the balance that they had was actually pretty good. They ran the ball relatively well, but it was just a matter of the quarterback, from a quarterback perspective, they just weren't getting enough. And that's what ended up costing them and kind of holding them down. On the defensive side, I'm going to give them a C. Go ahead.
I always look back to that Texas game, that double overtime Texas game, and think, that's what the Tech offense could have been. If they could have played like that every week, because, they were sharp. And, yes, they lost the game. It went way further than it should have. But that game was very impressive from the Tech offense. So you kind of got that flash of what it could be, and then it seemed to kind of peter out as the year went on.
Yeah. It kind of fizzled, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It just kind of fizzled from there. So yeah, I'm going to give them a C+ on offense. On the defensive side, I'm going to go with a C-. And again, the numbers are bad, right? The numbers are pretty bad. And in fact, C- is probably being a bit generous. It's probably closer to a D+. Look, you can't give up 37 points a game, plain and simple. You can't do that. I do think that they were relatively effective in the secondary. As far as making teams earn their way down the field. The problem was that they were allowing a lot of they went with the bend don't break approach, and that works as long as you're making big plays. And again, they just weren't making those splash plays. They weren't affecting the quarterback. They weren't picking the ball off. They weren't making those big plays. So they were allowing teams to complete all these underneath passes. And so it's good that teams were not hitting these deep shots on them over and over and over, as has been a problem in the past. But instead, they were getting killed by death by 1,000 cuts, and that's just not gonna stand up. And so I thought that the defense. I think it was probably better than those numbers as far as scoring offense and total offense may lean on, but I don't think that they were a team that was particularly good. In fact, the fact that they were able to hold things down and keep things in front of them probably belied a bigger issue, which was that the front seven just wasn't all that good, and that's kind of a bigger issue.
We have a comment that I agree with, and I feel like a lot of people agree with it, but I feel like there's a caveat to it. It says, I always felt that Tech's biggest issue was their lack of defense. And I would say that's pretty much true, but I think that a big portion of that is for so many years we got so used to seeing this air raid style of offense at Texas Tech that they're going down, they're scoring so quickly that their defense is on and off all the time. So coaches always say there's a balance to be had there. I think we're moving away from that a little bit in the Matt Wells range, but I think Tech's defense gets a little bit more flack on a normal, broader scan than they usually deserve.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, this is a team that's from a time of possession perspective, like they were 118th in the nation. Like they do not keep the ball very much. Their defense is on the field a lot. And so that's going to hurt them, especially late in games. But, in the end, you got to make plays, and you have to recruit to that. And that is a reflection of the entire program, not just this particular team. My MVP, I'm going to go with Eric Ezukanma, their quarterback or their wide receiver. I thought he was terrific. 46 catches, 748 yards, 6 touchdowns. Didn't really matter who was the number one, who was the quarterback, right? He was making plays. He led the team in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns. I think you could go with Jack Anderson if you wanted to go with an offensive lineman, which is, I think, fair as well. So maybe co-MVPs, but I'm going to go with Eric Ezukanma, the Keller product, as my team MVP. So now let's take a look at 2021. Looking forward to 2021. And this is a team that is going to, once again, need to figure out exactly what they are offensively, right? Alan Bowman is transferring, right? They do not know who, they need to figure out exactly what their quarterback situation is going to be like. They're also losing Keshawn Carter. They're also losing Jalen Polk. There's some movement there at Tech. And so the question is going to be, especially I would say from the quarterback perspective, that's what everybody wants to focus on. They're also losing TJ Vash to the draft. They're losing Eli Howard to the draft. They're losing Jack Anderson to the draft. They're moving a lot of guys out. And so I think they're going to need to figure out the quarterback spot, what they want to do at the quarterback spot. Do they believe in Henry Columbia? Is he their guy?
Or may I throw out
but
Baron
I think
Morton?
Also that offensive Baron Morton, if they want to roll with the true freshman, I mean, I know they're very bullish on him. They are going to need to shore up that offensive line, obviously with with Jack Anderson leaving. They do bring in TJ Starman from TCU in the transfer portal. That should help as well. But this is also a team that I do think the defense, by and large, with the exception of Eli Howard, who is probably their most effective defender, in my opinion, they're coming back largely intact. And a lot of that defense is going to come back. The defense is going to have an opportunity to say, we were young, we need another year. Well, they're going to get another year, and we'll find out exactly what they are. I think it's a big year for Matt Wells. I think, it's going to be a third year for him. Do I think that he's on the hot seat? No. Do I think if they have a very bad year, he could be out? Sure. I think you can say that about a lot of coaches. Do I think that if they have another 5-7 type year, that 2022 is going to be problematic for him? Yes, I do. So this is a big year for Matt Wells, I think, going into 2021. So it will be interesting to see what Tech does.